Parents Club. Thank you to David, to Pradeep, and to Vijay for really making us feel so welcome and so included. I also wanted to mention a big thank you to my co-presenters. And we were just introduced by Pradeep, so I'm not going to do that right now. But I did want to pause here for just a second and to say that the relationships that we have with each other in terms of Stanford Alumni Association, the Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education, and for Stanford Career Education really are to a benefit to your students and to recent alumni. And I'm so thrilled to have the opportunity to just talk through briefly some of the things that each of our areas, in essence, provide to you. So here's an overview of what we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk a little bit about career planning and speak to the idea of being future ready. I really have some important thoughts I want to share there. And then Katie will follow up and talk about pre-professional advising. I just wanted to mention that one of my favorite things to do is to hear Katie speak about the impressive work that they do with students. And then finally, with a huge, huge thank you to Theanne. The work that she does on behalf of students and recent alumni is just so impressive. Okay. So one of the things that we wanted to just emphasize in terms of themes that'll come up during our presentation this morning and hopefully in the Q&A is that when you become future ready, you really have to start it at Stanford. And so what I would say is regardless of where your student is or your recent alumni is, really think about these four areas. The first is to build community. One of the huge benefits of coming to a place like Stanford is the impressive community of alumni, faculty, current students that your student can in essence engage with. And I just put a few questions under each one of those to think about that. And I'm going to pause for just a second on community. The thing that happens at places like Stanford in the undergraduate experience is that this is where you develop friendships and relationships that will in essence carry you through the rest of your life, especially with regard to career. So building community is one. We layer on top of that, understanding who you are, and there are many resources that can engage students on this. I'll share a career development model that allows us to do this, but again, when you hear Katie and you hear Theanne, I think you're going to see that come through as well. The idea of developing your career path, please keep in mind with the many changes, and we're in the midst of great change right now in terms of our economy and our government, that it's important to not only have a plan A, but a plan B, plan C, and to really engage your students on those. And then finally, always look to learn, right? We're an institution of higher education, and this is the place to understand how do you, in essence, manage setback? What did you do well? What would you do differently? And in essence, how do you work your way through failure? So these are four areas that will come up and that I really wanted to emphasize as I talk first about our area. So one of the ways for students to engage us is through the student-facing areas of our center. They all come under a group called Career Coaching Education. And one of the things that I really am grateful for as we've redeveloped the center is that we have teams that in essence engage students where they are. So if you look at this, there are 6 areas that range from the Frosh-Soft experience all the way over to experiential learning. And the nice thing that you can see also is that we engage students via their schools. So just wanted you all to know that this is how we're set up. And if you have a student that you're working with right now, please encourage them to think about the many ways that we engage with them. All right, let's talk about student engagement. What you see here looks kind of like one of those spinners that you use for stress. I want you to know that when you look at our model, the 3 outer circles ask basic questions. The first is, who am I? That's discover. The second is, what options are available to me? That's apply. And then finally, what can I do to advance my skills and my experiences? And that's experience. So those hover around the outside of the circle. The inner part of the circle is reflective thinking. And what I wanted to pause here and mention is that reflective thinking looks back and looks forward. And so what we do with Integrate is we really look to encourage students through our career coaching and the ways that we interact with them is to ask, what have you learned from your past that you can bring forward into your future to build into success? So this is the framework. When students come into us through these areas, that we engage them with. And I'm so thrilled that we have it. I think it really speaks well, not only to current students, but to all of us throughout our lives as we develop our careers. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how do you take that career development framework and in essence engage our centers. So this is Student Engagement 101. And by the way, if you are the parent of a recent alum and they've never talked to career, this is a way to do it as well. So I always say start with a get to know you appointment with one of our career coaches. They are really competent and very kind, and they know and understand how to work with students. The second is to activate your handshake account. I mention this because all Stanford students have handshake accounts, but they have to go in and activate them. And it's hard to make an appointment with a career coach. And actually, in fact, it's almost impossible if you aren't on Handshake, because Handshake is where we manage that. I want to pause here and let you know, in case you don't, that current students of Stanford every week during the 10-week quarter get something called Stanford Career Ed Connect from us. And you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, this is an example of the humanities and sciences. So every Sunday night, these go out, and what they do in essence is say to students, hey, did you know that this is going on, like career fairs, or there's a networking opportunity, or we're collaborating with Haas to offer program X or program Y. I wanted to share with you that this is one of our most effective approaches to communicating with students. It has an open rate of between 40 and 60%. And in case you're wondering who opens these the most, Frosh. So first-year students are really, really engaged with this. I'd encourage you also to have your students follow us on Instagram. We're at Stanford Career Ed. And then to let you know that we are one of many areas on campus, and I just list a few here where students can get involved, I really would encourage you to think about the Office of Student Engagement. I think they have over 600 student orgs. The Centers for Equity, Community, and Leadership, I believe there are 8 of those. There's SAM, and by the way, there's many, many opportunities for mentoring. I mentioned the Haas Center for Public Service. I really am a big fan of the Cardinal Quarter, and then Rising Bird Fellows, which is a program that we have that we supplement unpaid internships. So we've given over, since 2021, over $1.4 million to students to help them out. And I did add many, many more. One of the things you might be asking yourself is, well, James, this is great information, but do students actually use your center? And the answer is yes. I wanted you to know that I started in 2021 in January, in the middle of the well, toward the end of the pandemic. And even at that point, we had 2,800 students working with us. We've reorganized our area. And what I want you to see is that students continue to work with us and increase their work with us. And one of the wonderful things is that we're there in ways that we hope they need us to be. So we're available via Zoom. We are available in person, over a phone, and I'm really impressed and pleased with the response that we've had with students. I wanted to share with you a little bit about what does the job market look like, because I'm guessing you're wondering as you read many media sources, what's going on out there. So I'm going to do kind of an inverted pyramid and let you know that NACE, which represents the National Association of Colleges and Employers, has done a survey of employers and found that unlike last year, this year, the plans to hire students are 7.3% higher. So when students are graduating in May, June, that we see a lot more activity. I'm going to put a quick caveat in, though, because you probably have seen restructuring occurring at the federal level. And we belong, or I belong, to a group of career center directors that's part of the Atlantic Coast Conference. And one of the things that I'm seeing coming through is that several of the career centers, including us, are learning that federal employers are going to be canceling their recruitment plans. So I just wanted you to know that I'm aware of the reality. And then finally, I wanted to share with you, this year we launched a winter career fair. Usually in the winter, we do a specialized career fair. And this year we decided to go with all majors and open up to all employers. I will let you know that employers were a bit hesitant at first to register for this, but by the time we finished registration for this event, we were at 60, so 2 didn't show. We did see a strong interest from employers, and we also saw a strong interest from students. We register students when they come into the event, but I will tell you, we don't get them all. And I was there the entire day, and you should have seen the lines for places like Amazon in terms of the interest that students have. And please know, it's not just Amazon. We had nonprofits, we had government agencies, really strong interest. So I just wanted you to see a little bit in terms of the unique students we registered, which was 535, and then each of the employers has a QR code at their booth, and we collect that data as well. I promise I'm almost done. I wanted to let you know that I worked with Theanne about 4 years ago to launch Plus Five. Theanne's going to have more to say about this, but I did want to share some initial numbers with you in terms of this is a program that's available to alumni 5 years after Stanford, after they graduate Stanford. It's so important to keep engaging students as they become alumni because they're making many decisions around career transitions. I'm really thrilled to share with the number of appointments. Did want you to know I don't have data yet on 23, 24 in terms of ready to present because we had a transition with a team member, but we do have that available. We just haven't put it in a report. I talked earlier about having Katie talk to you about the work that she does. And Katie, I advanced the slide. I apologize. You just let me know if you need me to advance it more. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Katie.
All right, James, thank you so much. I really appreciate being here with you and Theanne today. And thank you so much for hosting us. I think we're all thrilled to be able to talk with you today. So I'll do a quick introduction, even though we were introduced at the top. I'm Katie Wang. I am the Director of Pre-Professional Advising here at Stanford. And I just wanted to point out as we get started that James and his team are over in Career Education, which is in the Vice Provost for Student Affairs. And our team of pre-professional advisors is in academic advising, which is in the Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education. So we really enjoy a strong partnership with James and his team, which is found across campus. So a wonderful network of folks that are interested in supporting students in their career pursuits. James, you can, thank you. You may be familiar with academic advising. We have several teams. We have a residentially based advising team. We have a group of advisors who work with our student athletes. We have a team that focuses on academic policy, another that works with our first year students and organizes programming such as new student orientation. And then we have our pre-professional advising team, which is the team that I'm a part of and one that we'll highlight today. All of us are based in Sweet Hall, but several of us have satellite offices across campus. Next slide, please, James. Thank you. So there's a group of 4 of us who are pre-professional advisors. We support both our current students and our alumni who are interested in careers in professional areas such as law, business, education, and health. For Stanford students, health typically means medicine, but we do support all health professional areas. In our work with students, we try to help them understand courses and course requirements if they're required for their area of focus. We help them explore majors, try to connect with departments across campus that may be of interest. We offer a lot of programming throughout the year. So we have our one-on-one advising appointments. We offer drop-in advising, which we call our office hours. And we also have many programs throughout the year. So some of those are focused on standardized tests that might be required for various professional programs. We have programs that focus on application timelines. We have several application workshops. We also have a lot of online resources available for students. We have comprehensive advising websites through our Canvas course platform. Please feel free to keep clicking through there. Thank you so much. We also have a lot of interest in co-curricular pursuits, and I'll touch on these a little bit as we move forward with the presentation, but we have many students that are interested in research and other types of co-curricular activities on campus. We host professional schools so that students can hear directly from those admission side. We have a clinical shadowing program for our pre-health students. This is done in partnership with the School of Medicine. We're very fortunate to be able to offer that. And we do support our professional school application or applicants through a variety of different support systems. And today I'm going to offer an illustration of how we do that. James, thank you for advancing. So for this illustration, we're going to focus on our medical school applicants. And this process of really articulating why it is an applicant may want to be a physician is something that all applicants are tasked with in the medical school application process. So to get to that process, our students go through a very similar series of steps, as James described in his part of the presentation. So our students go through a discovery step where they may be taking courses. They may connect with mentors through the Stanford Alumni Mentoring Program. They may be able to explore what it is to be in the clinical space through our clinical shadowing program. And should a student find that this is interesting to them, they may take it a step deeper and start applying their own skill set within areas of interest. So they may have internships in industries, they may invest in a long-term research project, they may become involved in community service, such as through organizations affiliated with the Haas Center for Public Service. And hopefully for our med students, they're in a clinical space working with patients. So our Stanford students and alumni are extraordinarily good at steps 1 and 2. They often come to us ready to apply to a professional program with just a really impressive set of experiences that have led them to this application. And they often come to us in what I think of as being the hard part of the process, which is really distilling down why they want to apply to this professional area in about a page and a paragraph, which is the personal statement, which is usually a component of almost every, if not every, application for professional school. Next slide, James. So we're often working with our students through a series of one-on-one conversations about what they've done, how those activities have led them to want to apply to professional programs, thinking about what are the attributes of this professional space. So in this case, medicine, what really attracts you to this as a career path? What experiences have allowed you to confirm that this is exactly what you want to do and perhaps not something that's closely related, such as another health professional area? So one tool that we have for our students, just as one example, is what we call our self-assessment. This is an active link in the presentation, so if it's shared, it should be accessible through this link. James, if you just click ahead, it should populate there. Yes. So this is a series of questions that we encourage our students to complete and consider and bring to advising conversations to help them with this reflection part. And then we can work together as they put together that application. And with that, I will turn it over to Theanne.
Katie, thank you so much. And I just want to acknowledge I'm seeing a lot of great questions in the chat. So I have about 5 minutes and then we'll get to Q&A. So thank you all so much for your questions. My name's Theanne Thomson. I'm the Director of Alumni Career Connections and the Interim Director of Student Programs at the Stanford Alumni Association. I'm an alum of Stanford. I'm a parent of a current student. And I've had 2 graduates who have extensively used the resources that James and Katie have spoken about. So if there's one message you take away from today, it is please have your student engage with Stanford Career Ed and with pre-professional advising. They have fantastic resources, and it really helped my children on their path. So when your child chose Stanford, they became part of a global community of 242,000 alums all around the world. And the mission of the Stanford Alumni Association is to help foster connections to reach, serve, and engage all alumni and students. And my team really focuses on how do we expand the connections for them by their professional interests and expertise. So this slide is sort of the setup slide that we share with all students at career fairs and James's office shares with them. To access the alumni resources, it is a different login. It's an alumni login. It's not the same as your student login. So students should set up their Stanford Pass. It's like their alumni SUNET. Once they do that, they can then access the Stanford Alumni Directory, which is the home of 242,000 alums. They also can access our community-based platform, Stanford Alumni Groups, and they can register for an alumni email that they have for the rest of their life. And with that, they can join the Stanford Alumni LinkedIn group, and these complement resources like Stanford Alumni Mentoring that James already mentioned. So I would encourage you to encourage your student to establish their presence in the alumni directory. They can do this as a student. Once they log in, there's a little icon at the upper right. They just click on that and they can edit their directory profile. For students that are close to graduation, we encourage them to add a non-Stanford email that they regularly check, because their Stanford email will actually expire 120 days after graduation. So if they just put that in right now, it'll be there and they won't miss communications from Stanford. In addition, as they add experience to their portfolio, we encourage them to add their job title, their company, their industry, because in the directory, students and alums can search by many robust filters. Industry and company are the top two. And we also have a filter of alums who are willing to offer career support, so they can search for alums willing to offer support. What we encourage your student to do, though, in doing outreach is to work with Career Ed or take advantage of the templates that are available on our website or in Handshake to really craft that personal outreach. If the outreach becomes transactional or too boilerplate, alumni can hide their profiles in the directory so students aren't able to discover them. So again, think about, you're building a network for life, and you want to make sure that those interactions are really in the intention of building that network and ensuring positive relationships. So in addition to the directory, which is really about one-to-one connection, Stanford alumni groups, we have over 500 alumni-led communities by region, by shared identity, by class or professional area. And we know from working with alums that they have multiple affiliations with the university. And this is a platform where students can join and alumni to affiliate with alums by what affiliation matters to them. These communities that are led by alumni volunteers organize over 1,000 events per year. Many of them are social events, networking events. Some of them are involved right now in mentorship programs that we're piloting between our real estate group and a course in civil and environmental engineering. The key here is that students have to actually opt in to use the platform, and there's a screenshot here of access, which shows them they have to go into their access profile and opt in to access the platform. So again, I would encourage you to ask your student to do this to get set up so they can access our resources. So over the past couple of years, we have been building out alumni-led industry groups across almost every major sector. And this is so that every student, when they graduate, could have a community to affiliate with. These are alumni-led, and when your student graduates, if there's an area they want to start, please have them reach out to us, and we are here to support them in that. But what these communities offer are chances for networking, learning, and coming together. And the photos here are just a few recent opportunities. For example, we have a Startups New York community that had a mixer this summer. We invited students to join as well, and they engaged with alums on the entrepreneurship sector that's happening in New York. At Reunion and All Alumni Day, we had a sustainability event at the O'Donoghue Family Farm where we invited the dean and our alumni groups in sustainability. I talked with 2 freshmen who showed up. They were just curious to learn about it, and they were engaging with alums about what careers are like in sustainability. And then on the right, we partnered with our alumni group in public service, as well as our alums who live close to campus, and invited them back for a public service career mixer organized on Election Day. We call it Democracy Day here. So again, we're working in collaboration with James's office and with our alumni groups to provide these opportunities for students to engage with alums. So all of these resources that James and Katie and I have talked about will continue for your student when they graduate. +5 is a program we started a few years ago to ensure that they have the career coaching and advising through those first 5 years when they're making those pivots and transitions to, do I consider graduate school? Oh, maybe I don't like this career, I might need to pivot. The alumni connections they have access to for life, but we do intentional programming for recent grads. We welcome them to the regions that they're in. We have a virtual career series. We have an upcoming one in sustainability in March that will talk about career pathways and virtual networking. And we have spring industry happy hours. So we just want you to know that Stanford is here for your student and your recent grad. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to James.
Thank you, Theanne, and thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop sharing so I can actually see the comments. Pradeep and David, would you let me know how you'd like to manage, in essence, questions that come up?
I can highlight them for you. I'm not sure some of these questions who they're directed to, but feel free to jump in as you might need to. So one is, what do you talk about with a freshman who might be interested in a major like classics?
I'll give you my perspective, and actually, Theanne, I'd love to hear from you or Katie on this. One of the ways that we engage first-year students of Frosh is we actually are at their halls, and we actually coordinate with approaching Stanford to do that, and with residential education. I do believe that there are advisors, as Katie mentioned in her presentation, in the different residence areas. But Katie or Theanne, did you want to add to that?
Sure, I'll add to that. For first year students, we it's sort of similar to what we outlined with the framework here. We really encourage exploration. So as a first pass, I would say the student should be encouraged to try out a class in fields of interest. And so we in VPUE, we have our introductory seminars. There are many departments represented in the intro STEMs, and there are some that are really meant for first year students. So I would encourage any student to check those out. They tend to be very small class sizes, up to 15 students, with a member of the faculty in that area focusing on a small piece of that larger, maybe departmental focus. In addition to that, we have a website, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. It has a very nice name, but it's Frosh Friendly Courses. And so we have departments who have identified courses offered in the department for courses that are meant to be very inclusive to any student's background. So no prerequisites are required for those courses. So definitely checking out a class in that area of interest. And then yes, talking with their undergraduate advising director who advises across the curriculum. That would be what I would suggest.
What are some of the common challenges you see non-STEM students facing during the search for summer internships and jobs, and how do you support them?
Could I ask you a favor? Would you repeat that? I was just about to put a resource in for one of the people who asked about internships.
Sure. What are some of the common challenges you see non-STEM students facing during the search for summer internships and jobs, and how do you support them?
Oh, excellent question. I think initially what we see is when they're in their first year or when they're fresh, not having in essence, the experience and or coursework. So I think by the time that they are in the midst of their sophomore year, they're really much more marketable. With regard to the non-STEM students applying for internships in those areas, I think the challenge that they have is really communicating what are called career readiness competencies, or you may have heard of them discussed as transferable skills. And one of the great things that they have available to them is they can either meet with our Frosh Soft team, or they can meet with the team that supports DOOR and the School of Engineering. And I mention that because it really is learning the language and understanding where can you show potential. A wonderful thing about internships is as soon as you've got, let's say, a year and a half of coursework behind you, it really is much easier to make a case for you, and it can be challenging. And so again, I would say talk to the career coaches in either the Frosh Soft team to help make that transition, and or the coaches in the DOOR School for Sustainability or the School of Engineering. And that's a combined team that we have.
Okay. And what advice do you have for freshmen that don't know what interest or major they want to pursue? I guess this goes for most of them.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. First and foremost, I would say, and Theanne, if you would like to jump in on this one, or Katie as well, to normalize that. And what I mean by that is this is a perfectly appropriate time to be asking these sorts of questions. And by the way, I think I put this on my slide, but in terms of Student Engagement 101, encourage them to come in and talk to our Frosh Soft team, because this is where they can start to have one of those get to know you conversations and not feel like they have to have an answer before they understand the questions. We do have a whole host of career assessments that students can use, and they're very similar to the questions that Katie actually put up in terms of the reflection exercise. Again, keeping in mind that career development model is cyclic, that we go through it many times, I think it's important. But I'm going to pause there and see if Theanne and or Katie has anything they want to add.
Yeah, thank you, James. Here's what I'll say is that I think having your student, with no matter what they're doing, think about that career development model, which is sort of, where am I right now? What do I want to learn about an experience? And then to reflect on that. I last night hosted 8 juniors at my house. SAA runs a program called Junior Dinner Off the Farm. The entire conversation was actually around like career paths and international relations and AI and SimSys, and they were asking, well, and they were still exploring. And what I said is all your experiences at Stanford, whether it's being involved in a student club, doing research, your coursework, your faculty, all of those are opportunities to build skills in various areas. And I know from my personal experience with my freshmen, after freshman year, it was hard to get internships, I'll be candid. And so they ended up, doing jobs that they could find in the community. Sophomore year, they all did research because Stanford has a lot of great research opportunities available to them. And really it was by junior year that they landed the internship kind of in the area but they built on those, academic experiences, the club experiences into their story that then helped them land the internship. So I think my point is you don't need to necessarily have an external internship somewhere, but you need to look at the portfolio of your experiences, and James and Katie's offices are a great space to help craft that story.
Okay. And how important are extracurricular clubs? And sometimes, the student is interested in business and economics, but has no luck getting into one of them. So, what's your advice?
So if I understand the question correctly, I think it's very important in terms of being involved, especially the first 2 years where I think one of the themes you hear Theanne and I talk about is really getting to understand yourself and getting the experience that qualifies you for more advanced internships. I wanted to call out one of our colleagues on campus, Dr. Helen Chen is here, and she actually runs something called the Integrative Learning Portfolio Lab. I mention that because that's a place where students learn how to use e-portfolios. And it's a really great opportunity for them to try on who they are, as it were, and think through what are those student experiences and how do I start to position myself through them? What's the narrative I'm telling about me before they or while they're going into places like LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn assumes you already know that. I think the ILPL helps you understand how to do that. And so just wanted to mention that that's a partnership that we have with the School of Engineering. And I'm so grateful that we have opportunities for students to take part in it. Theanne or Katie, did either of you have anything you wanted to add?
No. Are there any pre-professional advisors for architectural graduate students or for entering the profession prior to grad school?
I'm not 100% sure I understand the full context of the question. Our pre-professional advising team within academic advising does not have advisors who focus on architecture as an academic pursuit. We would encourage students that are interested in graduate programs, academic graduate programs, to connect deeply within their department. And perhaps in this case, with the School of Engineering, we found that usually for a graduate program like a doctoral program within a specific academic field, the best advisors for those students are usually within that academic department. Of course, we are available to talk with them, broadly speaking, about their professional interests. And we do have a lot of overlap between what we offer, what career education may offer, by extension, the +5 team may offer. And so we have a lot of partnerships that are meant to support students. So for example, we have most of our professional or pre-professional students are now taking some time after they confer their undergrad degree and before they matriculate to their professional program. So we may encourage the vast majority of our students to go to career education and talk with a career coach about what they might want to do during that. We call it sometimes a gap year or a glide year before they start their professional school. So if a student has an interest in crafting a resume or a cover letter or talking about a paid position in between their undergrad time and whatever they choose to do next, we're often pointing them to career education. So it may be that a student that's interested in architecture could benefit from talking with several different folks on campus.
Okay. And Katie, this is for you. My daughter is class of 26 with major in comparative literature and minor in theater performance studies. Is there encouragement, formal or otherwise, for humanities and art students to consider business school from your office?
We welcome any student from any major to engage with our office. We have two of the four of us work with students interested in business, typically MBA programs. So I would definitely encourage them to join our pre-business mailing list, to come and talk with a pre-professional advisor if they're interested in business. We try to make sure students know what we have to offer, but we don't encourage them to go in any particular direction, only really to explore areas that they might be interested in, and then come and talk with us about how they might explore that further.
Okay. There's a question on the financial aid package. I think I'm going to skip that. Can you send us a link to the self-assessment? If you could just post it on the chat line, I would appreciate it.
Yes, I put the link in the chat.
Thank you. How do you help students focus on what path authentically fits them rather than chasing the latest career trend, especially being in Silicon Valley?
That's an excellent question. I would go back to the career development model, because answering that "who am I" question, and I'll let you know that I often meet students for coffee. And one of the things, especially with first and second years, that I find myself talking to them about is, in essence, is this what you want to do? So they'll talk to me about, for example, being involved with tech, and all of their friends are in it, and they feel like they've missed the boat. And one of my first questions will be, well, is that where you see yourself going? You know, and if the person says yes, I'll be like, okay, well, let's talk about how you connect to our team and learn more. And I always say to them, and we're here if you change your mind or if you want to think through this. So I talked about normalizing. I think it's important to know that we are impressionable throughout our lives, especially when we're in college. And it's really important for students to have a safe space and to, in essence, know that when they come to us, we'll work through this with them. And my guess is by the time that when they first enter Stanford to their junior year, they're probably going to think about several different careers, and they should be. What you're mentioning in terms of where we're located, that definitely is a defining factor, especially because many times that's affiliated with success. And so then you have to, in essence, work with people and ask them, what is success for you? What does that look like? What sorts of conversations are you having with your parents and your peers about this? So many, many factors. But Theanne and Katie, did you want to add anything?
No. If my daughter is interested in government, any advice on seeking internships?
Yes, I have a couple, and again, I'll ask Katie and Theanne if they'd like to add. I would say I mentioned the Cardinal Quarter, and I wanted to mention to you that I really think that there are many excellent resources there for defining experiences that students may want to have. So please know that Career Ed is not the only place. We are neighbors to the Haas Center, and I would say if they get a chance to go to an info session, to definitely do that. I also wanted to talk about the current economy and some of the things that are going on with the federal government, where you see the federal government, in essence, shapeshifting or redefining what it does. I would say to look at state government. There are many, many excellent opportunities in state government, and all of those opportunities, or many of them, are listed in Handshake. And again, to have a conversation about a strategy with one of the career coaches. I'm going to just pause here for a moment and talk about humanities and sciences, because many of the majors there may want to look at government. And here's a great chance to go in and talk to a career coach about, how do I define my strategy given what may be going on in our economy right now? I don't know if Theanne and Katie, do you have anything you want to add?
I'll just add, this was a topic at dinner last night. I had two international relations majors that had an interest working in government. And what we talked about is, when things are uncertain, what are adjacent experiences that might help you build the skills in the area? So looking at community development, looking at nonprofits, and the Haas Center is an excellent source for those opportunities. The Haas Center also has a great fellowship program for seniors. These are one-year opportunities where they can have a fellowship with a community organization or a foundation. So I would encourage your student, if you have a current senior, to check those out.
And at this point in the year, are there still opportunities for on-campus research internships and summer housing on campus for that?
Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry. I was looking for a
Yeah.
link that I wanted to
Are,
share.
are there still opportunities today for on-campus research internships and summer housing, if possible, on campus?
I don't know about summer housing. I know that there's a summer session program that's run, and I do think it embraces the variety of backgrounds and Stanford students and non-Stanford students. And I also can't speak very much to research in terms of what's currently available. I will say that employers are still seeking interns. And we see that in our most recent career fair, for example. But Theanne and Katie, did you have anything to add to that?
Sure. For the research part, there are several structured summer research programs offered on campus in summer. Some of the deadlines have passed, some are still open to application. So I would encourage your student to see what they might be interested in and definitely talk with their undergraduate advising director or UAD, which they probably recognize. That would be a way to explore applications that are still open.
And what we encourage our students, my children, to do is to, if they had understood their area of interest, so if it was mechanical engineering, my son reached out to faculty members. He kind of looked at their profiles and tried to establish some one-on-one relationships. And after a few conversations, found a fit where a faculty member was looking for somebody to start in spring, that then continued through the summer. So I think in addition to the formal programs, if you know an area of interest and you're curious about it, you could do individual outreach to faculty. But again, it needs to be, very thoughtful. You have to have a genuine interest in their topic and make sure that that outreach is tailored to that.
Yeah, I know a couple of people asked for the slides, and James and Katie and Theanne were very kind to share it. So, and I see David just posted the link to the Google Drive, so please download if you need to. Are there any courses or help for students to learn about what to think about compensation, stock options, salaries, etc., risk levels?
And we do offer salary negotiation. I can't off the top of my head recall when that is. I'll put the information about our events in the chat in just a moment. So yes, and I do think that this is one of those times when you're looking at things like negotiation and salary, to also look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The Occupational Outlook Handbook does an excellent job in terms of providing current salary information. And then finally, to talk this through with career coaches, I will tell you that our career coaches will go the whole process with a student, and are often engaged with students around acceptances. And I also just wanted to let you know that if your student accepts an offer and then decides to revoke the offer, that is to not accept it, they can also work with us prior to doing that, because the employers will come to us oftentimes when students have revoked an accepted offer and in essence ask us what's going on. And I would say that, through the whole process, we're here to work with them on that.
And
And
I'll
how
just
does
add,
sorry.
oh, sorry. If the student is interested in like an academic exploration of the different topics around investment and finances and things, the Graduate School of Business has a program called Pathfinder, where they're offering many classes at the GSB to undergraduates. And so definitely have a student that's interested in thinking about business topics, explore Pathfinder. And I put the link in the chat.
Thank you. How does Stanford help with students with the internships in STEM, and when do companies visit Stanford for career fairs?
I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. So how does Stanford help students with summer internships in STEM, and when do companies visit Stanford for career fairs?
Currently we have 6 to 8 career fairs a year, and employers come to all of those. So depending upon what you're interested in looking at or being recruited for, the internships the recruiting for that tends to happen November through February. So that's one thing that I think you can count on. I do want to add a quick note. If your student misses an opportunity to apply for an internship, they can contact us and we can get them the employer's contact information, and they can contact the employer directly just in case someone decides they don't want to do that internship. Their interest will be in essence noted. We offer many programs where we bring alumni in to talk to students on panels. And so I would say, and I'll put the events piece in the chat in just a second, to have them look for those events as well, because recruiting does happen formally through Handshake and formally through career fairs. However, we do many panels where there's also recruiting happening through alumni in terms of knowing of opportunities. Theanne or Katie, did you want to add anything to that?
A question about med students. Do most of them take a gap year, and if so, what do they do?
Yes, right now, both nationally as well as on our campus, students really across the professional areas, including medicine, are taking 1 to 2 gap years most commonly. They're doing all sorts of really quite interesting things with that time. Yes, and it varies quite a lot. I would say a few of the common things that students might do include research. So a lot of our students engage with research while they're on campus as undergraduates, and many of them may continue doing research either on the same project or on a new project during a gap year or two. The Haas Center for Public Service offers some really interesting post-undergraduate fellowships. And so many students are attracted to those opportunities. We have students who may want to teach, and some find opportunities on campus, and some find opportunities through outside organizations like City Year or Teach for America. Yes, there's lots of things. There's even paid positions where students are able to work in a clinical setting, and that is sometimes what a student might want to do before or while preparing for their application to medical school. So lots of really interesting things that they can do, and that's just a small sample.
Yeah. I think this question might have been answered, but for freshmen, is it difficult to find internships or research positions?
Yes, I believe we did discuss it, but it's an excellent question and bears repeating. I think the challenge that freshmen face, first years face, is the fact that they haven't had coursework that employers often look for in having those internships. And they also haven't, in essence, developed the ability to demonstrate through things like student orgs and other experiences that they, in essence, have moved beyond high school. And so I think it is a challenge. I don't think it's impossible. So if your student has something where they've, in essence, done college level work or somehow qualified, come in and talk to a career coach about navigating Handshake, because I will say that Handshake is a big system. It's the most used job search platform in the United States by colleges and universities. And to also have the discussion about the resume, because the resume really is the way that employers look. So that's my answer is, in essence, there are challenges and then there are opportunities in terms of, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I think it's really important to start to look at how do I apply for these things and how do I position myself? Theanne or Katie, did you want to add anything?
Not to that answer. I think that's wonderful, James. But in the chat, there was a co-term question mark, which I think was maybe another gap year opportunity. Yes, lots of our students right now are very interested in the co-terminal master's program. So that is something that they could certainly do during a gap year in between their undergrad degree conferral and their professional school.
A question about a student graduating with a master's degree in linguistics. Any ideas for job searches?
I do have ideas for job searches, and I'm thrilled that this question was asked. We have a PhD and postdocs team, and I've got to tell you, they are just first rate in terms of the work that they do with masters, PhDs, and with postdocs. One of the events that I put in the chat was the March 13th event, which we have called PhD Pathways. We get about 300 participants, 300 to 400 actually, and they range from masters through to postdocs. What that event does is it helps people understand how do you take a master's or a PhD or a postdoc and start to leverage it in different career paths. We hold it in the Alumni Center. It's an all-day event, and I would say that that's a first step. The other thing that I would mention is we offer something called, for example, HAL with the School of Humanities. It's called Humanists at Large. Right now, we're in our cohort with that, but we offer that every year. And it's really a way for students who come out of the humanities to understand what might they do with their career. It's usually about 12 students that go through it, and it is master's, I believe, in PhD. So there are lots of options. I would say there's a PhD postdoc link on our website. If you go to the website, and I'll try and find it and post it in here, but we have such an excellent team, and they work so closely with what's called VPGE, the Vice Provost for Graduate Education. And I would say talk to those people. They're really excellent about helping you, in essence, understand taking something like linguistics and defining your career with it.
And do you think internships will be canceled due to the recent NIH or NSF funding cuts?
They haven't talked to our school in particular or to our career center in particular, so I can't say that I know or I don't know on that one. And I haven't seen them listed in the Atlantic Coast Conference that I've been involved with. So right now, I honestly don't know. I would say that to, in essence, check their website. I don't know where that stands right now, but I would say that's a good place to start. And you can also look in Handshake. If the postings are in Handshake, then that means that they're definitely active.
Thank you note from a parent. She says, thank you. My student has found both the academic and career advising to be very helpful so far. So thank you to all of you. I think what is the best way for a student to reach out? I think we know that by now. Easy. Somebody loves the Haas Center. Okay, Tom, yes. My student is a junior econ major, CS major, CS minor, sorry, and still hasn't found a summer job. Anything left?
Yes. Please note that they're not alone, and that we do have more career fairs coming up, including one that we do with all the Ivy Plus schools called the Just-in-Time Career Fair. I think the first step is that junior hasn't had a chance to come in and talk to our humanities and sciences team, that would be an excellent place to start. I wanted to add a qualifier to that. If that student also thinks that, for example, they want to get involved in something that has more of an engineering focus, let's say, for example, or door, we do have those coaches available as well. So the first part would be to come in, if they haven't done it yet, have their resume looked at. Also plan to attend our virtual career fair, which is coming up on April 8th. No, it's not April 8th, it's actually in March. I'm sorry, I'll get the date in just a second. And to become active if they haven't had a chance to do so.
There's a few questions on financial aid. Is this something you want to address?
Oh yeah, and actually, I hope I put it in. I've been putting in a lot of links. For experiential learning opportunities, the Rising Bird Fellows Program, because we do give out stipends for them, I believe that the rules around financial aid have changed. And I'll see if I put it in terms of, we work with financial aid about helping students understand what it means to accept a stipend from us and how that impacts their financial aid funding. So the answer is yes, and the qualifier is I don't actually have the specifics right now, but I'll look to put the Rising Bird Fellows information in there because it does talk about that.